Hi, welcome to Virtualized Geek Tech Talk episode number 33. Today is January 30, no, not 30, my dyslexia is showing the 13th. And this is the second Tech Talk of 2014. And we have a great topic today. We're talking about OpenStack in the enterprise. So, for those of you who are not aware of OpenStack and what exactly what OpenStack does, you probably haven't been following the blog lately. Shame on you. Virtualizedgeek.com. Search for OpenStack. Come up to speed. But for those of you who are already with me, you know that I wrote a blog post probably about a year and a half ago about cloud management solutions. Specifically, we went through OpenStack, Eucalyptus, solution from a company called Abaquo, Novell's cloud manager solution, and quickly kind of something formulated, which was, at least in that post, cloud management is a long way away. I didn't mention VMware vCloud Director. That's another solution that was in the blog post. And to be fair to all of these vendors, cloud management is a very difficult problem. When I had to do a RFP for a cloud management solution a couple of years ago, I really wasn't up to speed on kind of what cloud management was. So when I brought these vendors in-house to take a look at the cloud management solutions, I looked at Novell's Cloud Manager, for example, and it was basically a repackaging of a lot of their other solutions. So Novell had a orchestration solution. I think it was called Novell Orchestrator, and it's very robust. If you've ever looked at an orchestration suite, they are capable of doing a tremendous amount of things. So a huge part of cloud management is the ability to do orchestration. So when you look at some of the legacy proprietary solutions from where, as of a couple of years ago, Dell had a cloud manager, which I don't think they hawk anymore, at least not directly. Novell's cloud manager and even BMC's cloud manager, what you'll see, the underlying platform or the underlying foundation of that is their orchestration suite. I think HP for a little while, outside of OpenStack, marketed a cloud management solution, which was again partially bundling their HP orchestration solution. So the point of that is that cloud management is hard and you need a jump start. So when Rackspace and NASA announced the OpenStack initiative, I kind of took a step back, and I knew that there was Eucalyptus. I knew there was this Abaco from a smaller player. There was these smaller projects out, although at the time Eucalyptus wasn't necessarily a small project. But there was these projects that had been out for quite some time that had been, building up steam and had a lot of developer support from their various open source projects. Another one is CloudStack, that's still around today. So, I kind of looked at the market and said, wow, Rackspace and NASA is coming a little late to the game with a really massive project. To say that from the ground up, you're going to start a project and that solves a complex problem, such a complex problem as cloud management. I thought it was ambitious at the time. Fast forward a couple of years later, I still think it's a bit ambitious. About a year and a half ago, just as a lay geek, I installed a local instance of OpenStack, or went to a demo page for OpenStack. I forget which one it was. I believe I installed an instance of OpenStack and kind of looked at it. Being a VMware guy, I kind of looked at it and said, what the heck is this? What am I going to do? I had the console, which pretty much gave me no direct way to go into, without an API, going into and provisioning storage, networking, servers. The OpenStack was always built with developers' needs in mind, and not necessarily me from the DevOps or the operations side needing to manually provision machines. So I really didn't understand what OpenStack was. And I think today I like to think I have a much better understanding of what OpenStack was. And so a year and a half ago, I kind of said, you know what? OpenStack, not ready for the enterprise. It's just way too complex. Uh, it's too difficult to install, too difficult to support. I liken it to the days of the Linux days when Linux first started to get introduced to the enterprise. And I had, the Linux advocates in my group that were like, wow, this is great, Keith. And this, we can view the code and do all these great things. And I'm thinking, yeah, who's going to support that? Where am I going to get drivers from when I have a problem and a mission critical application is down, and I call Dell and I tell them that I have, well, some people might complain that the first problem is I have Dell hardware, but when I call Dell, they're going to say, well, what version of Windows or what version of Unix do you have installed on the system? And I would say, no, I have Linux Red Hat version 2.x installed, and they look at that, I'd hear the infamous click because, it's not supported. Today, you know what? Linux is a perfectly fine solution. The open source has proved itself extremely capable in the enterprise. And my knock on OpenStack is that it's open source. My knock on OpenStack is that it is still a bit immature. Just like when Linux had use cases, even back, 15 years ago, 15, 16, 17 years ago. I don't think it goes back 17 years ago, but just like it had use cases then, OpenStack has practical use cases now. If you want to build a cloud and you have the developer muscle to customize OpenStack and make it what you need to make it for your enterprise private cloud or your enterprise hybrid cloud or your public cloud, then it is a really great solution. It gives you everything that you need as far as the building blocks to make a great environment, from the storage, Swift, networking, Nova, when the different capabilities, the abilities to switch out Open Contrail for networking, VMware's NXX, Open vSwitch, whatever you want to use for your networking is completely there and available. You can build hooks. It's AWS. You can have AWS application API compatibility. However, if you're an enterprise and your system administrators, your cloud operators, their skill level is that of typical Windows servers administrators, no offense to VMware administrators, but typical VMware administrators who use VMware products that are very finished, and you have limited programming or Linux experience, then OpenStack is really hard. I wrote a blog post that said OpenStack is really hard. The community has options for helping you learn OpenStack, but that's the problem. The community for OpenStack is relatively small. When I say community, I mean the pool of available engineers to install and support OpenStack in the enterprise. Today, if I wanted to install and support OpenStack in an enterprise, I pick up the phone, call Randy Bias's company, Cloud Scaling, or I call Nebula, or I call Mantis, and I have one of those guys come in, and I spend probably a couple $100,000 on consulting services to get the product installed. And then I don't know what the maintenance fees are based on the size of my project, obviously. Rely on those companies to maintain that software until the industry was able to produce engineers that could support OpenStack in my day-to-day operations. We have a pretty practical and very good example of this in the industry today. PayPal is probably far and above has some of the most innovative and cutting-edge OpenStack installations or use cases. Yet they've built a lot of tools around OpenStack. I think they've open sourced a couple of them. specifically because they needed to fill a gap between what OpenStack did, not just because they chose to run VMware vSphere as the hypervisor in OpenStack, but mainly because OpenStack lacked capability that they needed. Scott Carlson of PayPal actually mentioned how they needed to, for provisioning servers, they needed to create, when they deployed, I believe it was Grizzly, they needed to also deploy a self-service tool. Uh, they currently have about 12 developers working on OpenStack full time to make it to continue to kind of manage it and make it what they need in their environment. So when you have a world-class company like PayPal, at least a world class technology company like PayPal, you ask yourself the question: is it because they have a special need, or is it because there's a gap in the capability of OpenStack? And I don't think there's anything unique about PayPal's use case other than they used VMware vSphere as the hypervisor when it wasn't really heavily supported in kind of the pre-Havana world. I think it's because OpenStack is exactly what it is. It's a project that's not very old yet. It's still only a couple of years old. Cloud computing, cloud management is a very complicated problem. Other vendors choose to go through it at leveraging technology, orchestration solutions, any management solutions that they already had, willing those together, putting a wrapper on that, and then calling it cloud management. I think OpenStack has the potential to be much better than those solutions because it was designed to be a cloud management solution from the ground up. Unfortunately, I just don't think it's ready for the enterprise yet. I think if you're looking at a cloud management solution and you want an open source solution, I think there's options that are a little bit further along, such as Eucalyptus or CloudStack. There may not be as much buzz around it, but I think, again, if you're an organization that has the chops for open source and OpenStack quite isn't where you need it to be yet, there's still options. Well, that's it for this episode of Virtualized Geeks Tech Talk. When I figure out another topic to talk about, or if I get a guest that has something to say, we'll talk to you then. See you on the Twitters.